Right now, you think you are taking in the world continuously, like a smooth, uninterrupted film recording your reality in crisp, high definition. But the real answer is far stranger. Every 4 seconds, your brain blinks. Not your eyes, but your conscious mind. It shuts down, microsleeps, and then stitches together a complete fabrication to cover up the gap so you never realize you were gone. You feel like a continuous person, existing in a continuous flow of time. You look at your phone, you glance at the wall, you hear a distant car engine, and it all feels like one seamless, unbroken stream of consciousness. It is an illusion. In fact, it is one of the greatest neurological cover-ups in biological history. Your brain does not record reality. It guesses it. When you move your eyes from the left side of your screen to the right side, a phenomenon called saccadic suppression occurs. During that rapid eye movement, which takes roughly 50 milliseconds, your eyes are effectively blind. If your brain processed the raw visual input during that whip-pan rotation, your entire world would look like a smeared, nauseating motion blur video. To save you from constant motion sickness, your brain simply turns off the visual feed. It cuts the wire. You spend roughly 45 minutes of every waking day completely blind, lived out in tiny, 50 millisecond chunks of total darkness. So why don't you notice 45 minutes of blackness every single day? Because your brain is a master video editor. The moment your eyes stop moving, your brain takes the brand new picture it receives and retroactively pastes it backward in time. It convinces you that you were looking at the new object the entire time your eyes were moving. It alters your temporal memory after the fact. Neuroscientist Dr. Ruffin van Rollen at the Centre de Recherche Cerveau et Cognition in Toulouse conducted groundbreaking studies into human visual perception. His research demonstrated that human attention operates in discrete rhythmic pulses, pulsing like a strobing camera at a frequency between 7 and 13 Hz. You do not see the world continuously. You sample it in tiny, rapid snapshots. Your brain receives frame 1, then frame 2, then frame 3. Between those frames lies void, nothingness. To hide these black gaps, your predictive processing system fills in the blanks. It builds a mathematical model of what it expects to happen based on past experience, and then presents that expectation to you as real-time conscious perception. You are not living in the present moment. You are living in a heavily edited rendering of what your brain predicted happened a fraction of a second ago. Why would evolution design a brain that lies to its host every few seconds? To answer that, you have to go back to the Pleistocene epoch, 200,000 years ago. Imagine your ancestor standing on the edge of a dense, sun-dappled tall grass savanna. The wind is rustling through the leaves. Light is filtering through the canopy in thousands of shifting, chaotic patterns. Raw reality contains too much data. If your ancestor's brain had to process every individual blade of grass, every shadow shift, every audio frequency, and every thermal change in real time, the sensory overload would freeze them in place. The energy required to process raw, unfiltered reality would consume more calories than the human body could ever digest. So evolution opted for shortcuts. It built a prediction engine. Your ancestor's brain did not need to see the entire leopard crouching in the brush. It only needed to recognize 3 dark spots through a gap in the foliage and instantly invent the rest of the big cat in conscious awareness. Those who processed every detail were overwhelmed and eaten. Those whose brains made bold, instantaneous guesses survive to pass on their DNA. Your perception is optimized for survival, not for truth. This brings us to the famous clock illusion, known officially as chronostasis. Have you ever glanced at an analog clock on the wall and felt like the second hand froze completely in place for way too long? You look up, and for one agonizingly stretched second, the hand does not move. Then, suddenly, it ticks along normally again. That is not a fluke. That is your brain getting caught in the act of faking your timeline. When your eyes darted toward that clock, the eye movement triggered saccadic suppression. To mask the blind spot created while your eyes were traveling, your brain took the frame of the clock face it saw when your eyes landed and stretched it backward in time to fill the empty visual gap. For a brief instant, your perception was living in the immediate past, waiting for reality to catch up. Dr. Yael Neve, a computational neuroscientist at Princeton University, studies how our internal expectations shape our neural reality. Her work shows that our brains actively construct our subjective experience by weighing incoming sensory signals against a dense library of past priors. If the incoming sensory signal is weak or noisy, your brain simply ignores it and turns up the volume on its own internal prediction. It paints over the world. Think about your blind spot spot. At the back of each human eyeball, there is a physical hole in the retina where the optic nerve exits to carry electrical impulses to the visual cortex. There are 0 photoreceptors at this exact spot. You have 2 literal holes in your vision right now. Hold your arm out, close your left eye, and stare at a spot on the wall. Somewhere in your peripheral vision, there is a patch of empty space the size of a dinner plate where you are completely blind. Yet you do not see 2 black floating circles in your vision. Why? Because your brain looks at the wallpaper, tiles, or sky surrounding that hole, calculates what should be there, and live paints the missing pixels in real time. It invents texture out of thin air. You are staring directly at an outright hallucination every second your eyes are open, and you feel completely comfortable with it. It does not stop at sight. Your temporal perception undergoes the exact same fabrications. Consider how you process speech. Sound waves travel through the air, strike your eardrum, and get converted into mechanical vibrations inside your cochlea. It takes time for your brain to process those acoustic frequencies and construct recognizable language. By the time you understand the end of a sentence, the beginning of that sentence is already gone. Yet your brain creates the seamless impression that you are hearing the speaker's thoughts in absolute, instantaneous real time. In a landmark study published by Dr. Virginie van Wassenhove and her team at Neurospin, researchers discovered that the human brain routinely reshuffles the arrival times of different sensory inputs. Light travels faster than sound. Touch signals traveling from your big toe to your brain take significantly longer to arrive than touch signals traveling from your nose. If your brain presented raw data as it arrived, you would live in a chaotic world where you see a person's lips move, hear their voice half a second later, and feel your foot touch the floor long after your eye saw it hit the ground. To prevent this perceptual chaos, your brain holds sensory inputs in a temporal buffer zone. It delays the fast signals, waits for the slow signals to catch up, syncs them up like a film editor lining up audio tracks, and then releases the final, unified scene to your conscious awareness. You are living on a broadcast delay. You exist roughly 80 milliseconds in the past. Everything you think is happening right now has already happened, been recorded, edited, color-corrected, and cleared by your neurological studio before you ever get to experience it. Every 4 seconds, your brain reevaluates its environment. It takes a pulse check. It drops the current scene model, microblinks its internal timeline, updates its predictive engine with fresh sampling, and launches the next temporal clip. When you get distracted, when you zone out while driving on a highway for 3 miles and suddenly realize you have no visual memory of those miles, your brain was simply operating on autopilot predictions. It was replaying its baseline model because nothing unexpected broke the pattern. You were barely there. We like to believe we are objective observers sitting in the command chair of our minds, looking out through clear glass windows at a concrete, physical universe. We trust our eyes. We trust our ears. We trust our sense of time. But science reveals a far stranger reality. You are not an observer sitting in a room looking out. You are the room. You are a biological simulation engine, enclosed in a dark, silent bone skull, receiving faint electrical pulses along nerve cables and using them to construct a vivid, full-color story of a universe you can never directly touch. It lies to you about the dark gaps between your eye movements. It lies to you about the holes in your eyes. It lies to you about the sync track of sight and sound. It stretches seconds when you look at clocks, and it erases time when you are bored. It hides the truth from you because reality is too vast, too fast, and too expensive to process whole. Tonight, when you lie in bed in the dark, close your eyes and wait. Pay close attention to that quiet space right as you begin to drift off. You might feel a brief, subtle jolt, a sudden sensation of slipping or dropping into empty space for a fraction of a second. That is the edit cut showing through the seams. That is your predictive engine momentarily dropping frame rate before resetting its internal reality. And as you open your eyes to look around the room one last time before falling asleep, light will flood your mind, your brain will instantly stitch the visual timeline back together, and you won't think twice about it.